Good morning, Thunder fans. Folks, what a win for the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 2, a 149-106 romp against the Denver Nuggets. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. Welcome to Morning Thunder. And look, the energy already on this podcast is through the roof because the energy last night was unbelievable. And I think any analysis of this game has to start with just what that building was. Russell Westbrook after game one said that his buildings were louder, back when he was in OKC and, it wasn't the same crowd. Well, the Thunder fans showed up in full force from the jump. The team reciprocated and it was just a cauldron of energy. It felt like the good old days back at Paycom Center. It felt like the peak. Felt like old Paycom, like Chesapeake was paying for the naming rights. That's how good that energy was in that arena. And, the Thunder absolutely just showed up and, as Nuggets interim head coach David Adelman said, punked them from the jump. And you felt it. You felt it. And I think most people who follow this team, either, media, which is not me. I'm not a media. I'm not a journalist. I'm not out here making my tweets from the press box. I'm in the crowd with you. I'm cheering. You can't cheer in the press box. I'm out here full-throated, that pause, yelling with y'all, having a great time. So, I'm just going to say, any opinion you hear from me is from that of a fan. And that was, as a fan, one of the best playoff experiences I've seen, the best by far since playoffs returned, since this new era began. And I think genuinely, you can hear it in my voice. It's totally shot because this was an excellent performance. The Thunder just shot out of a cannon from the get-go and blitzed Denver. And we can talk about history. We've talked about a lot of history on Morning Thunder since we started this little podcast here a couple months ago. The Oklahoma City Thunder, the highest scoring half in NBA playoff history, with I believe 87, which is just unbelievable. That's a score that, if you put that up with a couple game totals, from the past, couple playoff games, it would have been a competitive ball game. The Thunder would have lost 87 to 90 to the Celtics, but regardless, 87 points in a half is unbelievable. This was the full power of a fully operational battle station of what the Thunder can be. And look, I think to really break this down, it's hard to start with anyone but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the absolute tone setter. This was, the poster child game for why he should be the MVP. 34 points, an insanely efficient 11 of 13 shooting from the field, and an NBA record plus 51. Plus 50, that is one of the most insane plus-minus stats I've ever seen in my life. So as a Thunder fan, look, that is exactly what you want to see. The 4 rebounds, 8 assists, those were, great as well. Only 2 turnovers. Just, that's perfect. That is Shai. That is the type of performance that will energize you to a victory. Got to give love to J-Dub as well. He had a bounce-back game for sure. 17 points on 6 of 11 shooting. I thought Chet looked great, plus 34, 15 points, hit 2 threes, 11 rebounds. Like that Chet answered the bell with the whole team did. The whole team did. And, the entire starting 5, everyone in double digits pretty early, I believe by might be wrong on this one. By the second half, everyone was in double digits, and you gotta give love to the starting 5. But I feel like one of the bigger differences too is off the bench, the performances we saw, which outside of Alex Caruso, it's been a bit dodgy. But you look at Case and Wallace is always great. You look at Aaron Wiggins, who had a great scoring night. 10 points, was a spark plug off of the bench. You look at Isaiah Joe, who had a pretty putrid performance in game 1. He snapped right back with a perfect night from the field, 5 for 5 from the field, 4 for 4 from 3. That is exactly the Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins you want to see if you think this team can win an NBA championship. But we'd be remiss if we did not bring up Jay Will, who early substitution into the game. You throw him on Jokic, and he was excellent. he was excellent on Nikola Jokic. I feel like his effort was there, but also he had this he brought this energy to the arena whenever you saw him go one on one with Jokic. Like everyone was just cheering him on, willing him on to guard this, gargantuan human being, this mountain of a man, like this, as good as my good friend Rylan Stiles put in Locked on Thunder, this Paul Bunyan figure, which I thought was just perfect, by the way. Jokic is as tough a cover as any of it. And when you see J Will out there, the crowd just kind of built up, It was like being at the park or something. Like, yeah, go get him. You got it, J Will. It was beautiful, it was magical, it was special to see the Thunder faithful completely back J Will. And look, they were on from the jump. They knew what this game meant. They knew what would happen if you lost game 2. Fresh off the heels of what happened with Boston, when they lost their game 2 to the Knicks. That is a position you do not want to be behind, and the Thunder faithful just rallied them to that position, which is a perfect segue into what spent up way too much of my time yesterday on, the old Bird app I'm calling it Twitter. It's Twitter. Russell Westbrook. So initially I thought, this was going to get brushed off. We're not going to think about it because Russell Westbrook enters the game after a timeout. The PA announcer doesn't even mention him, actually. So all of that debate about, are we going to cheer Russ again? Blah, blah, blah. Like, completely thrown out the window. I thought that would be the case. And then Russell Westbrook made a shot. And the crowd started booing. Which, I don't know how much that impacted Russ. I don't know if that was a situation where they're like, oh my gosh, like, or if he was like, this is weird. But literally a minute later, he got a technical foul. Got in a squabble with J Will. So it got under his skin. It worked. Thunder fans, maybe a bit of an overcorrection. I wouldn't have booed him every time he made a shot. But look, it's just business. I can respect it. It certainly threw Russ off, I think. It threw his mental off, but he actually had a great game. 19 points. He was the Nuggets' best player without a doubt. Like, shot the ball well, decent, good for Russ. Wasn't great from 3, but it clearly, I think, initially, set a tone that this thing was different. This game was different. We're putting the kitty gloves away. We're going to stop acting like this is a situation where we're going to romp over everyone and it's a nice day at the ball game. This is the playoffs, Ain't nobody's your friend except for everybody else wearing a black shirt or blue shirt or white shirt or whatever the Thunder are wearing that day. And Spalding, to sort of cherry pick a Russell Westbrook quote there. But he'll understand it. We're fine. Folks, don't be too upset about it. But let's talk about the game a little bit more. The Nuggets were not good. And if you're Denver, like, genuinely, if you entered this, this stretch here in Oklahoma City, and you told him you're going to get a split, you're happy with that. I think you're happy with that. I think if you're Denver, you obviously don't like getting completely just punked, like Adelman said. You got the game you wanted to get in game 1. If you're the Thunder, I think from a series perspective, you feel like you should be up 2-0. You let game 1 slip, and you dominated game 2. And I think that's one of those things that is going to be, I don't want to say tough to deal with, but I'll put it this way. If you flip the games, if you have this massive game 1, like this sort of performance in game 1, everyone would have expected it, and then Denver steals game 2, they take all that momentum back to Mile High, right? And that's, we've seen that before. The Grizzlies have done that a ton of times against OKC in previous series, that sort of thing. And, I don't want to sound too Captain Hindsighty here. I don't want to be someone who's like, oh, yeah, game 1 was great. It's not. I want to be up 2-0. But if you're going to have to split your home start as a as a higher seed, I would much rather have this situation where all of that momentum's going to Denver and the Thunder are out here trying to, wrestle back control, of home court and, really establish themselves in the series. You feel a lot better about that. I feel like as a team, you feel a lot better. You feel recalibrated, reset to play your brand of basketball the rest of the series. This was the Thunder. This was exactly why this team is an NBA championship contender why they are this next level team that everyone's been talking about and more people should be talking about. This was a dominant championship performance in a stretch of time where we haven't seen, really championship basketball probably since game 2 of the Grizzlies series. It was insanely validating at a moment where everybody who, talks about basketball, is interested in Thunder, all this, where you needed validation most, that you can pull yourself up off of the mat and throw your best punch. That was exactly what was needed to confirm your belief in the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was perfect. It was everything you want to see. I am over the moon thrilled that we got that performance. And look, I'm so optimistic about Denver. Apparently, I booked a flight. Shout Frontier Airlines for the cheapo flight out there. But yeah, I'm going out to Denver. We're gonna figure that thing out. But yeah, look, if you're OKC going forward, you want to get at least one in Denver, of course. I mean, that's obvious. Anything less than that is an absolute failure. You don't want to be going back to game 5 with this being 3-1. That would be a huge disaster. You'd wonder what happened to the team. Like, how did this happen? How did this flip occur if that happened? You want to get a split, but more importantly, I think this team is at a position where I think you can start to think and get a little greedy of potentially sweeping the Nuggets in this 1-2. You have all the momentum. We'll see how it is. Look, Jokic, one of the best players in the world. This was not his game by any means. He was in minus 36. This was not Jokic. He is going to return to form. That's going to happen. So I think realistically, you really just want to get one of the games. And I think that's probably going to be game 3. Riding the momentum a bit. The Nuggets, desperate in game 4. You don't want to be in a closeout situation in OKC. They win that. So who cares about my predictions? I'm just a dude. But that's probably how it's going to go. But yeah, if you're OKC, there's blood in the water, and it's time to strike. And I think you really can start to put the screws to the Nuggets if you can take that game 3 and put that pressure up, mountain high in game 4. So game 3, massive, massive, massive affair for the Thunder, and I'm very excited. Very excited to see how they continue on the road in an environment that is obviously intense fan-wise. You have the altitude. It's a good thing if you're a Thunder fan. This is a young team. They like to run, and it hasn't stopped them before. So, all right, we're way over time on this one, but thank y'all so much for watching or listening. Make sure, if you haven't already, if you're just coming across it, subscribe, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. We go not immediately, but we go after every single Thunder game, home, away. So we'll give you your little recap, do a bit of a long form thing as well, throughout the weeks, and just tell a friend, be like, hey, there's this cool new Thunder podcast. Check it out. That sort of thing. That really helps us grow. We're a podcast in our infancy, so that'd be much appreciated. Shout out to our producer, Jacquelyn Farris, as always, for helping me look and sound as great as I can, which, it's a low bar, but I do appreciate it for sure. But look, game 3 going down on Friday night, 9 p.m. Central Time, so make sure to get your coffees in. Look, it's Friday night, maybe a little espresso martini action, who knows? But we'll be talking to you probably Saturday morning at that point. So until then, Thunder up, everyone. Have a great one.